He should be dead by now. Victoria ran her fingers through Nathan's hair and laughed. I doubled the dose this morning. His heart should have stopped before lunch. Marcus Wellington stood frozen in the darkness. His maid's hand pressed hard against his mouth. Through the crack in the closet door, he watched his wife kiss his brother beside the Christmas tree. His legs gave out. Delilah caught him before he hit the floor. If you make a sound, she whispered, her voice shaking, you will not leave this house alive. Christmas morning, his own living room. His wife and brother planning his murder like they were discussing dinner plans. If you want to know how a billionaire ended up hiding in his own closet on Christmas Day, fighting to stay alive while the two people he trusted most planned his murder, then subscribe to this channel and stay until the very end. Comment below which city you are watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Marcus Wellington woke up that Christmas morning feeling like death. His hands shook when he reached for the bathroom sink. His vision blurred for 3 long seconds before it cleared. He stared at his reflection and saw a stranger. Gray skin, sunken eyes, 52 years old and looking 70. You're working too hard, he told himself. That's all it is. He had been telling himself that for 6 months now. Every dizzy spell, every moment of weakness. Every time he had to grip his desk at Wellington Tower just to stay upright. Stress, overwork, age. He had 100 excuses. He never once suspected the truth. Victoria was already in the kitchen when he came downstairs. She stood at the counter in her silk robe, blonde hair, perfect even at 7 in the morning, mixing his green juice in the blender. Good morning, darling. She smiled that beautiful smile. I made your special juice. Extra vitamins today. Marcus took the glass from her hand. The liquid was thick and green, slightly bitter. He had been drinking it every morning for 6 months. Victoria said it was for his health. She said the special powder she added was a vitamin supplement from Switzerland. Very expensive, very exclusive. He raised the glass to his lips. His phone rang. Damn it. Marcus set the glass down and pulled out his phone. His assistant. What is it, Rebecca? Sir, the Shanghai deal is falling apart. They want to renegotiate. They're threatening to walk. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. On Christmas Day, they're calling on Christmas Day. They don't celebrate Christmas in China, sir. Marcus looked at Victoria. She was watching the glass of green juice with an expression he couldn't read. I have to go in. Victoria's smile flickered, just for a second. But it's Christmas, darling. Can't it wait? It can't. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door. I'll be back by dinner, I promise. He left the green juice sitting on the counter, untouched. That small decision saved his life. At Wellington Tower, Marcus spent 4 hours on video calls with Shanghai. His head pounded. His hands trembled. Twice he had to mute himself and lean against his desk, fighting waves of nausea that came from nowhere. By 11 o'clock, the deal was saved. Marcus sat alone in his corner office, staring out at the Manhattan skyline, and made another decision. He would go home early, surprise Victoria, show her that he could still be the husband she married, the man who put family first. He had no idea he was walking into a trap. Marcus told his driver Raymond to take the day off. He wanted to walk clear his head, maybe stop and buy Victoria flowers. The cold December air felt good on his face. It made him feel alive. Alive. What a strange word to think about. He took a cab to the Upper East Side and got out a block from the mansion. The Wellington family home stood at the end of the street, 3 stories of old money and older secrets. Christmas lights glittered in every window. A wreath the size of a small car hung on the front door. From the outside, it looked like the American dream. Marcus walked up the front steps. He could have called ahead. He could have texted. But he wanted to see Victoria's face light up when he walked through the door. He wanted that moment of surprise, that flash of genuine joy. He slid his key into the lock, turned it slowly, pushed the door open. The smell hit him first. Not Christmas dinner, not pine needles or cinnamon candles. Something else. something bitter and sharp like medicine that had been spilled and left to dry. Marcus stepped inside. The foyer was empty. The house was quiet. Too quiet for Christmas morning. He took 2 steps forward. A hand clamped over his mouth from behind. Marcus tried to scream. The sound died under the palm. Another hand grabbed his wrist and yanked him backward. His body slammed into darkness. A door clicked shut. "Sir, please." A woman's voice shaking with fear. "Do not make a sound. They will kill you." Marcus knew the voice. Delilah, his maid, the woman who had cleaned his home for 3 years, the woman whose last name he had never bothered to learn. She pressed her finger hard against his lips. Her eyes were wide, desperate. Through a thin crack in the closet door, Marcus could see the living room. The Christmas tree glowed with expensive lights. Designer gifts sat arranged beneath it like props in a magazine shoot. And beside the tree stood Victoria. His wife was not alone. Nathan stepped into view. Marcus's younger brother. The brother Marcus had supported through 2 failed businesses. The brother Marcus had given a job when no one else would hire him. The brother Marcus had loved like a son since their parents died. Nathan's hand was on Victoria's waist, not like a brother-in-law, like a lover. Victoria laughed softly. "He came down for his green juice this morning like always, didn't even question it." Nathan grinned. "And he still went to work." "Of course he did. He's Marcus Wellington. He doesn't take sick days." Victoria's voice turned cold and clinical. "But he looked worse today. Paler. Weaker. It's working faster now." Marcus felt his heart stop. The green juice. The special vitamins. 6 months of slowly dying while his wife smiled and told him she loved him. Delilah's grip tightened on his wrist. She was holding him back, keeping him in the darkness. And Marcus understood why. If he walked out there now, if he confronted them, he would never leave this house alive. Nathan crossed the room and picked up a glass from the coffee table. The green juice Marcus had left behind that morning. "He didn't drink it today." Victoria's smile vanished. "What? The glass is still full. He didn't drink it." Victoria grabbed the glass and stared at it like it had betrayed her. "That's impossible. He always drinks it, every single morning for 6 months." "Well, he didn't today." Nathan's voice hardened. "Which means we're behind schedule." Victoria set the glass down hard. "Then we accelerate the timeline. Tonight. The charity gala at the plaza." "Tonight? That's too fast. We're not ready. We have no choice." Victoria's eyes were cold now, calculating. If he starts feeling better, if he goes to a doctor, if he asks the wrong questions, everything falls apart. "We do it tonight." Nathan ran his hand through his hair. "How?" "We go to the gala together. All 3 of us. Happy family." Around 9 o'clock, Marcus starts feeling sick. We act concerned. We help him to a private room. And then... She made a gesture with her hand. Quick. Final. "And the doctors?" Victoria smiled. "Dr. Patterson has been very cooperative. $100,000 buys a lot of silence. He'll sign the death certificate without asking questions. Natural causes. Heart failure. Such a tragedy." Marcus's legs buckled. Delilah caught him, her small body somehow holding his weight. He wanted to burst through that door. He wanted to grab Victoria by the throat and demand to know why. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of giving her everything she ever wanted, and this was how she repaid him. Nathan pulled Victoria close. "After tonight, we get the company." "After tonight," Victoria whispered, "we get everything. The houses, the accounts, the board seats, all of it." She kissed him softly. "We've waited 3 years for this. One more night." 3 years. They had been planning this for 3 years. Pretending. Lying. Watching him slowly die and counting down the days. Footsteps crossed the marble floor. Victoria's heels clicked closer to the closet. Marcus stopped breathing. Delilah's body went rigid. The footsteps paused. right outside the door. "Did you hear something?" Victoria asked. Nathan's voice came from across the room. "Hear what?" Silence. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. He was certain Victoria could hear it too. Nothing. The footsteps moved away. "I'm being paranoid. Call Captain Rodriguez. Tell him Marcus might be on his way home. I want eyes on every entrance." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Captain Rodriguez, the head of his private security team, the man he had trusted for 15 years to keep him safe. Victoria had bought him too. Delilah waited until the footsteps faded. Then she opened the closet door an inch and peered out. The living room was empty. Voices came from the kitchen now, along with the sound of running water. "We have to go," Delilah whispered. "Now, before they come back." She took Marcus's hand and led him through the back hallway. The servants' corridor. The one Marcus had walked through maybe twice in his entire life. They passed the kitchen entrance, and Marcus caught a glimpse of Victoria standing at the sink washing the green juice glass like she was erasing evidence. His wife. His murderer. Delilah pulled him forward. They reached the service entrance at the back of the house. She punched in the security code and pushed the door open. Cold air rushed in. Christmas Day in Manhattan, and Marcus was running for his life. "My car," Delilah said. "By the fence. Move fast. Don't look back." They crossed the small courtyard. Delilah's car was an old Honda 15 years old, at least rust spots on the doors and a crack running across the windshield. Marcus had never noticed it before. He had never noticed anything about Delilah's life. They climbed in. Delilah started the engine. The back door of the mansion swung open. "Go," Marcus said. "Go now." Delilah threw the car into reverse and hit the gas. The tires squealed on the cold pavement. In the rearview mirror, Marcus saw a figure step out of the house. Captain Rodriguez. He was already on his phone. They reached the street and Delilah floored it. The mansion disappeared behind them. Marcus stared straight ahead, his mind racing. "How did you know?" Delilah kept her eyes on the road. "I watch. I listen. I notice things other people ignore." "But why help me? I never—" He stopped. He never what? Never thanked her. Never acknowledged her existence. Never bothered to learn that she had a life outside of cleaning his toilets. Delilah glanced at him. "My brother died 4 years ago. Bad medicine. Someone cut corners to make more money and Terrence paid the price." Her voice was steady, but Marcus could hear the old pain underneath. "Everyone said it was bad luck. It wasn't. It was greed. Since then, I pay attention. I notice when something doesn't add up." And Victoria didn't add up. No, she didn't. Delilah reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside was a pale powder. "Last week, I was emptying the trash in the master bathroom. Your wife had thrown away a small container. It was hidden under tissues like she didn't want anyone to find it. I recognized the look. I knew it wasn't vitamins." Marcus took the bag. The powder looked innocent, like flour or baking soda, but he knew better now. "You saved this?" "I save everything that looks wrong, just in case." Delilah's jaw tightened. 3 weeks ago, a man came to the house when you were at work. Tall, dark suit, no expression. Your wife met him in the study with the door closed. When he left, she smiled in a way I had never seen before. Who was he? I heard her call him Captain. Marcus closed his eyes. Rodriguez. Your head of security. The man you trust to protect your life. Delilah shook her head. She's been buying people for years, Mr. Wellington. Building a wall around you. Everyone you trust, she owns. The car merged onto the highway. Manhattan's skyline faded behind them. Where are we going? Marcus asked. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they won't think to look. Marcus reached for his phone. I need to call someone. The police. The FBI. Someone who... No. Delilah's voice was sharp. No calls. No texts. Nothing. Why not? Because your wife has access to everything. Your phone, your accounts, your location. The moment you make a call, they know exactly where you are. She glanced at him. How do you think Rodriguez found your house so fast? He was tracking you the moment you left the office. Marcus looked at his phone. His whole life was in this device. His contacts, his bank accounts, his schedule, his security codes, and all of it was compromised. There's a scrapyard in Queens, Delilah said. We're going to make a stop. 20 minutes later, they pulled into a lot filled with broken cars and twisted metal. A worker glanced at them, then looked away. This was not a place for questions. Delilah held out her hand. Your phone, your watch, anything electronic. Marcus hesitated. The watch was a gift from his father, a Patek Philippe that had been in the family for 3 generations. His father had given it to him on his wedding day. His wedding day, 12 years ago. The day Victoria promised to love and cherish him until death do them part. She had been working on the death part ever since. Marcus unclasped the watch and placed it in Delilah's palm. Then he handed her his phone. Delilah walked to the edge of the scrapyard and threw both into a pile of crushed metal. They disappeared with a hard clank. That was my life, Marcus said when she returned. That was their leash. Delilah started the car. Now they can't track you. When they trace your signal, it ends in a scrapyard in Queens. That buys us time. Time for what? Time to prove what they did. Time to stop them. Time to keep you alive. They drove for another 30 minutes. The streets changed. Smaller houses, cracked sidewalks, chain-link fences, and barking dogs. This was not Marcus's Manhattan. This was a world he had never bothered to see. Delilah parked behind a 2-story house with faded blue paint and a crooked mailbox. My home. Marcus looked at the house. It was smaller than his closet. Smaller than the bathroom attached to his closet. And right now it was the safest place in the world. They went inside through the back door. The house was small but clean. A tiny plastic Christmas tree sat on a table, no presents underneath. A single red bow hung on the wall. Delilah locked the door. Then she locked it again. She pulled the curtains closed. Sit, she said. Marcus sat on the couch. The moment he did, his body betrayed him. Heat rushed through him. Sweat soaked his shirt. The room tilted. I'm fine, he tried to say. Delilah touched his forehead. You're burning up. The poison is still working. I need a doctor. Not a hospital. Not anywhere Rodriguez can find you. Delilah picked up an old flip phone from the kitchen counter. I know someone. A nurse from my church. She won't ask questions. She dialed a number and spoke quietly. When she hung up, she looked at Marcus with something like determination. Nurse Angela is coming. She'll check you out, but you need to rest. Marcus leaned back against the couch. The ceiling above him was cracked and water-stained. He had spent his whole life surrounded by luxury. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, hand-painted ceilings worth more than most people's houses. And none of it had protected him. Why are you helping me? He asked. I've never done anything for you. I didn't even know your last name until today. Delilah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, It's Johnson. Delilah Johnson. Delilah Johnson. Marcus repeated the name like he was learning a new language. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just survive. She sat down in a chair across from him. I know what it's like to be invisible, Mr. Wellington. I know what it's like to have people look right through you like you don't exist. But I also know that invisible people see things. We hear things. We know secrets that nobody thinks we're smart enough to understand. Marcus thought about all the times he had walked past Delilah without a word. All the times she had cleaned up after him, made his bed, washed his dishes, while he acted like she wasn't even there. And now, she was the only person standing between him and death. What did you see? He asked. Besides the powder. Delilah took a breath. I saw your wife on the phone 3 months ago talking to someone about insurance policies. She was asking about double indemnity, what it meant, how it worked. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Double indemnity. It means the insurance company pays twice as much if you die by accident, or if your heart just stops. Delilah paused. She also asked about the investigation process, how long it takes, what kind of questions they ask. She wanted to know if autopsies were automatic or if family members could refuse them. And you remember all of this? I remember everything, Mr. Wellington. It's the only power I have. A knock came at the front door. Delilah's body went tense. Stay here, she whispered. She moved to the window and lifted the corner of the curtain. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. It's Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor. She opened the door a few inches, keeping the chain on. An older woman stood on the porch in a bright red sweater holding a plate covered in foil. Delilah, Merry Christmas. I made too much food. Thought you might want some. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. That's very kind. Mrs. Patterson's eyes moved past Delilah, trying to see into the house. I saw a car I didn't recognize. You have company. My cousin, from New Jersey. He's resting. Your cousin. Mrs. Patterson's voice was pleasant, but her eyes were sharp. You know there's a black car that's been driving around the block for the last 10 minutes. Tinted windows. I don't like the look of it. Delilah's grip tightened on the door. Probably someone looking for a parking spot. Maybe. Mrs. Patterson leaned closer. You be careful, okay? Something feels off today. I will. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Delilah closed the door and turned to Marcus. Her face was calm, but her voice was urgent. They found us. How we ditched my phone. They're not tracking you. They're searching everywhere. It's what I would do. She grabbed her car keys. We have to move. Another knock. Harder this time. Delilah froze. Delilah. A man's voice. Calm and professional. It's Captain Rodriguez. I know you're in there. Open the door. Let's talk. Marcus felt ice spread through his chest. Rodriguez had found them. The man he had trusted to guard his life was standing on the other side of that door, sent by the woman who wanted him dead. I'm not here to cause trouble, Rodriguez continued. Mr. Wellington's wife is worried about him. She says he's been acting erratically. She thinks he might be having some kind of breakdown. She just wants to make sure he's safe. Delilah looked at Marcus. Her eyes said everything. Don't move. Don't speak. Don't breathe. I know you're trying to help him, Rodriguez said through the door. I understand. He's your employer. You feel loyal to him, but you don't know the whole story. Marcus has been under a lot of stress. His mind isn't right. His wife just wants to get him the help he needs. Marcus wanted to scream. His mind was fine. His mind was the only thing that had been working properly. It was his body that was failing, poisoned by the woman who now claimed to be worried about him. Delilah. Rodriguez's voice dropped lower, more threatening. I've been patient, but this ends now. Open the door or I open it myself. Delilah grabbed Marcus's arm. Back door, now. They moved through the kitchen. Behind them, the front door shuttered. Rodriguez was kicking it. They burst through the back door into the cold air. Delilah's car was 10 feet away. The front door crashed open. They were in the car before Rodriguez reached the backyard. Delilah started the engine and floored it. The tires screamed. In the rear-view mirror, Marcus saw Rodriguez running after them, phone pressed to his ear. He's calling for backup, Marcus said. I know. Delilah took a hard left, then a right, weaving through back streets. There's a church 3 blocks away. Grace Community. The pastor knows me. He'll help. A church against Rodriguez. Against anyone. Delilah's jaw was set. Pastor Thomas has faced worse than a dirty cop. Trust me. They pulled up behind a small brick building with a white cross in the window. The sign read, Grace Community Church. Delilah knocked on the back door. 3 times, fast. The door opened. An older man stood there. Gray hair, kind eyes, the face of someone who had seen trouble and wasn't afraid of it. "Pastor Thomas, please, we need help." Pastor Thomas looked at Marcus, then at Delilah. He didn't ask questions. "Come in, quickly." They entered the church. It was small and plain, wooden pews, a simple altar, candles burning in the corner. Pastor Thomas locked the door behind them. "What's happening?" he asked. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice came out as a croak. His fever was getting worse. His body was failing. Delilah answered for him. "His wife and brother have been poisoning him for months. They're trying to kill him tonight, and they've sent people to find him." Pastor Thomas nodded slowly. "Then he stays here until we figure out our next move." He looked at Marcus. "Can you prove any of this?" Marcus forced himself to think through the fog. "Camera footage, at my house. There's a hidden security system that Victoria doesn't know about. It records to a drive in my office safe. If I can get that drive, I can show what she's been doing." "Then we get the drive." Pastor Thomas picked up a phone. "But first we make sure you survive long enough to use it." He dialed a number. "Angela. It's Thomas. I need you at the church right now. Someone's life depends on it." While they waited, Pastor Thomas brought Marcus water and a blanket. The church was warm, but Marcus couldn't stop shaking. The poison was winning. "I don't understand," Marcus said. "I gave Victoria everything. The houses, the cars, the jewelry. Whatever she wanted, I gave her. Why would she want me dead?" Pastor Thomas sat down beside him. "Some people don't want what you give them. They want what you have. There's a difference. But I would have given her anything. Except control." Pastor Thomas's voice was gentle. "A man like you're used to being in charge, making decisions, running things. Some people can't stand that. They need to be the one holding the reins, even if it means destroying everyone around them." A knock came at the church's front door. Heavy, demanding. "Pastor Thomas?" Rodriguez's voice echoed through the building. "I know they're in there. Open up. This is a police matter." Pastor Thomas stood slowly. He walked to the front door and opened it a few inches. "Captain Rodriguez, Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Pastor. I'm looking for a man who may be in danger. His wife is concerned about his mental state. I just need to make sure he's safe." "Do you have a warrant?" Rodriguez smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "A warrant? I'm not arresting anyone. I'm helping a friend." "Then you can help by leaving. This is a house of God. When Mr. Wellington wants to speak with you, he'll find you." "Pastor." Rodriguez's voice hardened. "You're making a mistake, eh? If you're hiding a mentally unstable man, you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting your congregation at risk." Pastor Thomas didn't move. "I've faced risk before, Captain. I know what it looks like. And it looks like a man making threats on Christmas Day." Silence stretched between them. "This isn't over," Rodriguez said. "It never is." Pastor Thomas closed the door and locked it. He returned to Marcus and Delilah with a calm expression. "He'll be back. Probably with more people. We don't have much time." Nurse Angela arrived 15 minutes later. Young, late 20s with steady hands and intelligent eyes. She checked Marcus's vital signs with quiet efficiency. "You've been poisoned," she said. "Something slow-acting that builds up in the system over time. Your heart rate is irregular. Your blood pressure is dangerously low." She drew blood from his arm and sealed it in a vial. "I can run a basic test at my clinic. It won't be perfect, but it'll tell us what we're dealing with." Delilah handed her the plastic bag with the powder. "This is what they used." Angela examined it carefully. "I'll test this too. If it matches what's in his blood, you'll have proof." "How long?" Marcus asked. 2 hours, maybe less." Pastor Thomas looked at the window. The sun was setting. Christmas evening was approaching. "They're planning to do it tonight," Marcus said. "At the charity gala. They'll say I collapsed. They'll rush me to a hospital where a doctor they've already paid will make sure I never wake up. Then we stop them at the gala, Delilah said. Not without proof. Without that camera footage, it's my word against theirs. And they've already built the narrative. Sick husband, worried wife, mental breakdown. Everyone will believe them. Nurse Angela's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, and her face went pale. I just got the preliminary results, she said. The powder is a cardiac glycoside. It causes gradual heart failure over time. A double dose would cause cardiac arrest within hours. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. I should have died this morning. You should have died weeks ago based on the concentration in your blood. I don't know how you're still standing. Marcus thought about the green juice he had skipped that morning. A phone call from Shanghai. A random interruption that made him leave the glass on the counter. A small choice that had saved his life. But the poison was still in him, still working, still killing him slowly. I need that footage, Marcus said. Tonight, before the gala. Pastor Thomas looked at him. You can barely stand. I don't care. That's my house, my safe, my proof. I'm going. Delilah stepped forward. Then I'm going with you. I know that house better than anyone. Every hallway, every blind spot, every place where the cameras don't reach. Pastor Thomas nodded slowly. Then we plan this carefully. One chance. No mistakes. He went to a closet and pulled out plain clothes. A dark jacket, a knit cap, nothing that would stand out. Wear these. You need to look like you belong in the shadows. Marcus put on the clothes. They felt strange against his skin. For 52 years he had worn custom suits, designer watches, shoes that cost more than most people's rent. And now he was wearing a $20 jacket from a church closet, preparing to break into his own home to prove his wife wanted him dead. The irony burned in his throat. Pastor Thomas handed Delilah a set of keys. The church van. No fancy plates. Nothing traceable. Delilah took the keys. She looked at Marcus with something that might have been respect. Are you ready? Marcus stood. His legs were weak. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating too fast and too slow at the same time. But he was still alive. Against all odds, against 6 months of poison and 3 years of betrayal, he was still alive. I'm ready, he said. But what Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that the real nightmare was just beginning. Because back at the Wellington mansion, Victoria had just discovered that the church van was missing from the parking lot of Grace Community Church, and she had already made a phone call. The church van rolled through the empty streets of Manhattan at exactly 6:45 in the evening. Pastor Thomas drove with both hands steady on the wheel. Delilah sat in the passenger seat, watching every car that passed. Marcus lay in the back, fighting waves of nausea that came and went like ocean tides. How are you feeling? Delilah asked without turning around. Like I'm dying. Marcus tried to laugh. It came out as a cough. Because I am. Not tonight. Delilah's voice was firm. Tonight you fight. Tomorrow you can feel sorry for yourself. Pastor Thomas glanced in the rearview mirror. The gala starts at 8. That gives us about an hour to get in, get the drive, and get out before Victoria notices you're not where she expects you to be. Marcus forced himself to sit up. His head pounded, his vision blurred at the edges. But somewhere beneath the sickness, anger was building. Cold, hard anger that cut through the fog like a knife. She expects me to be dead, he said, or dying in some hospital bed while Dr. Patterson signs papers saying my heart just gave out. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. Pastor Thomas turned onto Park Avenue. The Wellington mansion loomed ahead, every window glowing with Christmas lights. Delilah, you know the house. What's our best way in? Delilah had been thinking about this for the past hour. The service entrance on the east side. The cameras there have been broken for 2 weeks. Victoria kept saying she would call someone to fix them, but she never did. She didn't fix them on purpose, Marcus said quietly. She wanted a blind spot, in case she needed to move something without being recorded. Or someone. Delilah met his eyes in the mirror. Mr. Wellington, I need you to understand something. When we go in there, you have to do exactly what I say. No arguments, no heroics. If I tell you to hide, you hide. If I tell you to run, you run. Your ego almost got you killed once already. Don't let it finish the job. Marcus wanted to argue. He was Marcus Wellington. He gave orders. He didn't take them from his maid. But then he remembered the closet, the crack of light. Victoria's laugh as she talked about doubling the dose. Okay, he said. You lead. I follow. Pastor Thomas parked the van 2 blocks away from the mansion. I'll wait here. If you're not back in 30 minutes, I'm calling the FBI. Not the police, Marcus asked. The police can be bought. Captain Rodriguez proved that. Pastor Thomas handed Delilah a burner phone. This is clean. No trace. Call me if something goes wrong. Delilah tucked the phone into her pocket. She looked at Marcus one more time. Ready? No. Marcus opened the van door. Let's go anyway. They moved through the shadows like ghosts. Delilah knew every inch of this neighborhood. She had walked these streets for 3 years, invisible to everyone who lived in these mansions, now that invisibility was keeping them alive. They reached the east side of the Wellington property at 7:03. The service entrance was hidden behind a row of hedges, invisible from the main house. Delilah punched in the code. The lock clicked open. Wait. Marcus grabbed her arm. How do you know the code still works? Because your wife never changes the codes. She thinks no one pays attention to details like that. Delilah pushed the door open. She's wrong. They slipped inside. The service corridor was dark and narrow, designed for staff to move through the house without being seen by guests. Marcus had walked through this hallway maybe 3 times in his entire life. Delilah had walked through it 3,000 times. She moved with silent confidence, pausing at every corner to listen. Marcus followed close behind, fighting the weakness in his legs with every step. They reached the main hallway at 7-Eleven. Voices drifted from somewhere upstairs. Victoria's laugh, Nathan's low murmur. They were getting ready for the gala, probably drinking champagne and celebrating their victory before it even happened. Your office, Delilah whispered. Where is it? 2nd floor, east wing, 3rd door on the left. That's 20 feet from the master bedroom. I know. Delilah closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her face was set with determination. Then we move fast, and we stay quiet. If they catch us, it's over. They climbed the back stairs, the ones the servants used. Every step felt like a mountain to Marcus. His heart was pounding too fast. Sweat dripped down his face. The poison was still in him, still eating away at his strength, but he kept moving, because stopping meant dying, and Marcus Wellington was not ready to die. They reached the 2nd floor at 7:16. The hallway stretched before them, elegant and empty. From behind the master bedroom door, Marcus could hear Victoria's voice. The car will pick us up at 7:45. That gives us 15 minutes. Nathan's voice answered. And Marcus. Captain Rodriguez is handling it. By the time we get to the gala, everything will be in place. We smile, we mingle, we wait for the phone call that tells us it's done. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Delilah touched his arm, a warning. Not now. Not here. They moved down the hallway, staying close to the wall. Marcus's office was 20 feet away, then 15, then 10. A door opened behind them. Marcus froze. Delilah grabbed his hand and pulled him into an alcove, pressing them both against the wall. Footsteps approached. Light footsteps. Not Victoria. Not Nathan. A young woman in a maid's uniform walked past, carrying a stack of towels. She didn't look in their direction. She didn't notice the 2 figures pressed into the shadows 5 feet away. She disappeared around the corner. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Who was that? Maria. She started 2 months ago. Delilah's voice was barely audible. Victoria hired her personally. I never trusted her. They waited 30 seconds. Then they moved again. Marcus's office door was unlocked. They slipped inside and closed it behind them. The room was exactly as Marcus had left it. Mahogany desk. Leather chair. The painting of his father hanging on the wall behind it. The painting that hid his safe. Marcus crossed the room and lifted the frame. The safe was there just as he remembered. A small digital keypad with a 6-digit code. He punched in the numbers. His hands were shaking so badly he had to try twice. The safe clicked open. Inside was a stack of documents, some cash, and a small black drive. The backup drive for his hidden camera system. The one Victoria didn't know existed. Marcus grabbed the drive and turned to Delilah. Got it. Then let's go. They had just reached the door when it swung open. Victoria stood in the doorway. She was dressed for the gala in a red evening gown that Marcus had bought her for their anniversary. Her blonde hair was perfect, her makeup was flawless, and her eyes were filled with cold, calculated fury. "Hello, darling," she said softly. "I thought you'd be dead by now." Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't move. He had imagined this moment 100 times in the past few hours. What he would say, how he would confront her. But now that she was standing in front of him, the words wouldn't come. Victoria's eyes moved to Delilah. "And the maid. I should have known. You were always watching, weren't you? Always listening. I told Nathan we should have dealt with you months ago." "You should have," Delilah said quietly. "But you didn't." Victoria laughed. It was the same laugh Marcus had heard in the living room that morning. The laugh of a woman who had already won. "It doesn't matter now. Nathan is calling Captain Rodriguez as we speak. You have maybe 3 minutes before this house is surrounded." Marcus found his voice. "Why, Victoria, 12 years? I gave you everything." "You gave me things." Victoria's voice turned bitter. "Houses, cars, jewelry, things. But you never gave me power. You never let me make decisions. You never treated me like an equal. I was just another possession, another thing you owned. So you decided to kill me. I decided to take what I deserved." Victoria stepped into the room. The company, the money, the board seats, all of it, with Nathan by my side running things the way they should be run. Nathan couldn't run a lemonade stand. I saved him from bankruptcy twice. Victoria smiled. "Nathan does what I tell him. That's more than I can say for you." Footsteps pounded on the stairs. Heavy, fast, men's voices shouting instructions. "That would be security," Victoria said calmly. "I'd run if I were you. Not that it will help." Delilah grabbed Marcus's arm. "The window. Now." "We're on the 2nd floor. There's a ledge. It connects to the service stairway. Move." Marcus looked at Victoria one last time. His wife. His murderer. The woman he had loved for 12 years. "This isn't over," he said. Victoria's smile widened. "Yes, darling, it is." Delilah was already at the window, pushing it open. Cold air rushed in. The ledge outside was narrow, maybe 8 inches wide. One wrong step and they would fall 20 feet to the concrete below. Marcus climbed out first. The cold hit him like a fist. His legs were shaking, his vision blurred. But he kept moving, pressing his back against the wall, sliding inch by inch toward the corner of the building. Delilah followed, pulling the window closed behind her. They heard Victoria's voice from inside. "They went out the window. Find them." The ledge seemed to stretch forever. Marcus's fingers scraped against brick. His feet found purchase on stones that had been there for 100 years. Behind him, he could hear shouts, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. They reached the corner at 729. The service stairway was there, an old fire escape that hadn't been used in decades. Delilah tested it with her foot. It held. They climbed down as fast as they could. Marcus's arms burned. His heart felt like it was trying to escape his chest, but the ground was getting closer. 20 feet. 15. 10. His foot slipped. For one terrible second, Marcus hung in the air, one hand gripping rusted metal, the other flailing at nothing. The ground rushed up toward him. Delilah caught his wrist. "Don't you dare," she hissed. "Don't you dare die before we finish this." She pulled him back onto the stairs. They kept climbing down. 5 feet. 3 feet. They hit the ground running. The church van was where Pastor Thomas had left it 2 blocks away. They sprinted through the darkness, staying in the shadows, ducking behind cars whenever headlights approached. They reached the van at 7:34. Pastor Thomas had the engine running before they even closed the doors. "Did you get it?" he asked. Marcus held up the drive. "I got it." "Then let's move." The van pulled away from the curb, just as 2 black SUVs turned onto the street. Captain Rodriguez's men. If they had been 30 seconds slower, it would have been over. Marcus slumped against the seat, gasping for breath. Every muscle in his body screamed. The poison was still there, still working, still trying to stop his heart. But he had the drive. He had the proof. And Victoria's perfect plan was starting to fall apart. "The gala," Marcus said between breaths. "We have to get to the plaza. We have to stop them before they spin this into something else." Pastor Thomas looked at him in the rearview mirror. "You can barely stand." "I don't care. If Victoria gets to that gala and tells everyone I've had a mental breakdown, if she plays the worried wife while Rodriguez hunts us down, we lose everything. We have to confront her publicly. We have to show everyone what she really is." Delilah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "He's right. If we hide, we lose. The only way to win is to fight back in front of witnesses." Pastor Thomas sighed. "The plaza it is." The van turned toward Midtown Manhattan. The gala started in 26 minutes. Victoria and Nathan would be arriving soon, all smiles and handshakes playing their roles perfectly. They had no idea Marcus was still alive, and they had no idea what was coming. Marcus closed his eyes and clutched the drive against his chest. Everything depended on the next hour. His life, his legacy, his chance to prove that the woman he had loved for 12 years had been slowly murdering him the entire time. The van rolled through the streets of Manhattan, past restaurants and shops and families celebrating Christmas together. Normal people, living normal lives. People who had no idea that somewhere in this city, a billionaire was fighting for his life against the people who should have loved him most. Marcus thought about everything he had lost. His health, his trust, his belief that the world made sense. But he also thought about what he had found. A maid who saw him when no one else did. A pastor who opened his doors without asking questions. A nurse who risked her career to help a stranger. People he had ignored his entire life. People who were now the only reason he was still breathing. The Plaza Hotel appeared ahead, lit up like a palace. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Men in tuxedos and women in evening gowns walked up the steps laughing and talking like this was just another party. Marcus Wellington was about to turn it into something they would never forget. Pastor Thomas stopped the van at 752, 1 block from the Plaza Hotel. Marcus could see the entrance from where they sat. A red carpet stretched across the sidewalk. Photographers lined both sides, cameras flashing. The charity gala was already in full swing. "You can't go in through the front," Pastor Thomas said. "Security will have your face. Rodriguez probably sent your photo to every guard in the building." Marcus stared at the crowd of wealthy guests streaming into the hotel. These were people he knew. Business partners, board members, politicians he had donated millions to over the years. Any one of them would recognize him instantly. "There's a service entrance on the west side," Delilah said quietly. "The catering staff uses it. I've been to events here before. The security is focused on the main doors." "And once we're inside," Marcus asked. "We find the main ballroom. Victoria will be there. Nathan too." Delilah's voice hardened. We play the video in front of everyone. No private conversations, no backroom deals. We expose them where they can't run. Pastor Thomas handed Marcus a small laptop bag. Nurse Angela dropped this off while you were getting the drive. It has everything you need to connect to the hotel's presentation system. Marcus took the bag. His hands were shaking. Whether from the poison or the fear, he couldn't tell anymore. How do we get access to the system? Leave that to me. Delilah pulled out her phone. I know someone who works events at the plaza. She owes me a favor. She dialed a number and waited. After 4 rings, someone answered. Lisa. It's Delilah. I need help. Yes, I know it's Christmas. I know you're working. That's why I'm calling. A pause. I need access to the AV system in the main ballroom. No, I can't explain right now. I just need you to trust me. Marcus watched Delilah's face as she listened. Whatever Lisa was saying, it wasn't good. I understand, Delilah said finally. I understand the risk, but I'm asking anyway. Please, Lisa, this is life or death. Another pause. Then Delilah's shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you. We'll be at the west entrance in 5 minutes. Don't tell anyone. She hung up and looked at Marcus. We have 15 minutes. Lisa will get us into the AV room, but after that, we're on our own. 15 minutes is enough. Marcus opened the van door. Let's finish this. They moved through the side streets, staying in the shadows. Marcus's legs felt like they were filled with concrete. Every step was a battle. The poison had been in his system for 6 months. Even without this morning's double dose, his body was failing. But he kept moving, because Victoria was inside that hotel smiling and shaking hands, playing the devoted wife while her husband was supposed to be dying somewhere, and Marcus was not going to let her win. They reached the west entrance at 7:58. A young woman in a black uniform was waiting by the door looking nervous. Delilah? Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know what you're doing, but if I lose my job over this, you won't. Delilah grabbed her hand. I promise. After tonight, you'll understand. Lisa looked at Marcus. Her eyes widened. Is that? Don't say his name. Delilah cut her off. Just get us inside, please. Lisa hesitated for 1 long second. Then she pulled out a keycard and swiped it against the reader. The door clicked open. AV room is on the 2nd floor. Take the service stairs. Don't let anyone see you. Thank you, Lisa. Delilah squeezed her hand. I won't forget this. They slipped inside. The service corridor was narrow and utilitarian, nothing like the grand lobbies and ballrooms that guests saw. This was the hidden world that made luxury possible. The world of workers and servants. The world Marcus had ignored his entire life. They climbed the service stairs quickly. Marcus's heart was pounding. Sweat dripped down his face. He could hear music now drifting from somewhere above. A jazz band playing Christmas songs. Laughter. Clinking glasses. The sounds of people who had no idea what was about to happen. They reached the 2nd floor at 8:04. The AV room was at the end of a narrow hallway marked with a small sign that said, Authorized personnel only. Delilah tried the door. Locked. Lisa said she would leave it open. Delilah muttered. She probably got scared. Marcus leaned against the wall, fighting for breath. We need another way. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell below. Someone was coming. Delilah grabbed Marcus's arm and pulled him around the corner, pressing them both against the wall. The footsteps grew louder, closer. A man in a security uniform walked past, talking into a radio. Copy that. Eyes on all exits. Target is Marcus Wellington. Do not engage. Notify Captain Rodriguez immediately if spotted. The guard continued down the hallway and disappeared around another corner. Marcus felt ice spread through his veins. They were already looking for him. Rodriguez had beaten them here. We have to move, Delilah whispered. Now. She pulled out a hairpin from her pocket and knelt in front of the AV room door. Her fingers moved quickly, working the pin into the lock with practiced precision. "Where did you learn to do that?" Marcus asked. "You don't grow up where I grew up without learning a few things." The lock clicked. Delilah pushed the door open. "Get inside." The AV room was small and cramped, filled with screens and control panels. Marcus could see feeds from cameras throughout the hotel. The main ballroom, the lobby, the entrances. And there, on one of the screens, was Victoria. She stood near the stage in her red gown, talking to a man Marcus recognized. Senator Williams. They were laughing about something. Victoria touched the senator's arm the same way Marcus had seen her touch Nathan that morning. "She's working the room," Delilah said quietly, building sympathy before the announcement. What announcement? That her husband collapsed, that he's been rushed to the hospital, that she's devastated, but wanted to be here because the charity means so much to both of you. Delilah's voice was bitter. "She's been planning this for years, Mr. Wellington. Every detail, every word." Marcus stared at the screen. The woman he had married. The woman he had shared his life with. The woman who had held his hand at his father's funeral and promised to always be there for him. All of it was a lie. "How do we connect to the main system?" he asked. Delilah was already examining the control panel. "This board controls the projectors in the ballroom. If we plug your drive in here, we can broadcast directly to the main screens." "Do it." Delilah took the drive and plugged it into a port on the panel. A menu appeared on one of the monitors. She navigated through folders until she found the video files from Marcus's hidden camera system. "Which one?" she asked. Marcus leaned forward, scanning the file names. Each one was dated. He found the one from 2 weeks ago, December 10th, the day Victoria had promised to love him forever at their anniversary dinner. "This one." Delilah clicked on the file. The video began to play. Victoria stood in the kitchen of the Wellington mansion, measuring pale powder into a glass of green juice. Nathan was beside her, his arm around her waist. They were talking casually, like this was the most normal thing in the world. "How much longer?" Nathan asked on the video. "A few more weeks." Victoria stirred the juice carefully. "His heart is getting weaker. The doctor says it could happen any time now." "And if it doesn't happen naturally?" Victoria smiled. That cold, calculating smile that Marcus now recognized. "Then we help it along. Christmas Day seems appropriate, don't you think? A tragic holiday accident. The grieving widow. The supportive brother-in-law." Marcus felt his stomach turn. Hearing it in the closet had been bad enough. Seeing it on video, watching his wife's face as she planned his murder, was something else entirely. "This is it," he said. "This is the proof." Delilah nodded. "I'll patch it through to the main ballroom. Are you ready?" Marcus thought about everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. The closet, the chase, the church, the escape from his own home. Every moment had led to this. "I'm ready." Delilah's fingers moved across the control panel. On the monitor showing the ballroom, the lights dimmed slightly. The jazz band stopped playing. The screens on either side of the stage flickered. And then, Victoria's face appeared on every screen in the room. The ballroom went silent. 300 of New York's wealthiest and most powerful people stared at the screens, confused. Victoria's recorded voice echoed through the space. "His heart is getting weaker. The doctor says it could happen any time now." Victoria froze in the middle of the room. Her face went white. Nathan, standing near the bar, dropped his champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor. "Then we help it along." The recorded Victoria smiled on the screen. "Christmas Day seems appropriate, don't you think?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. Senator Williams stepped away from Victoria like she was contagious. Marcus watched on the monitor as chaos erupted, but he wasn't done yet. "I need to get down there," he said. "I need to face her." That's suicide. Rodriguez's men are everywhere. I don't care. Marcus headed for the door. I've been hiding all day, running, letting other people fight my battles. Not anymore. He pulled open the door and came face to face with Captain Rodriguez. The security chief stood in the hallway, gun drawn, 2 guards behind him. His face was calm, professional, the face of a man who had sold his loyalty to the highest bidder. Mr. Wellington? Rodriguez's voice was smooth. You've caused a lot of trouble today. Marcus didn't move. You were supposed to protect me. I trusted you. Trust is expensive, sir. Your wife paid more. So you're just a hired killer now. After 15 years. Rodriguez shrugged. I'm a businessman, just like you. He raised his gun. Delilah moved faster than Marcus thought possible. She grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and swung it with all her strength. It connected with Rodriguez's arm. The gun fired. The bullet went wide, shattering a light fixture. Run! Delilah screamed. They sprinted down the hallway. Shouts erupted behind them. Footsteps pounded on the floor. Marcus's legs were failing. The poison, the exhaustion. His body couldn't take much more. But he kept running because stopping meant death. They burst through a door and found themselves on a balcony overlooking the main ballroom. Below, chaos reigned. Guests were screaming, pushing toward the exits. Security guards were trying to maintain order. Victoria stood in the center of it all, frozen, staring at the screens that showed her own damning words on a loop. And then she looked up. Her eyes met Marcus's. For one moment, time seemed to stop. Husband and wife, victim and murderer, staring at each other across the wreckage of their marriage. Victoria's face twisted with rage. "You are supposed to be dead," she screamed. "Why won't you just die?" The ballroom went even more silent. Everyone heard her. Everyone saw her mask finally slip. Marcus gripped the balcony railing with both hands. His voice was weak, but in the silence it carried. "Because someone saw me when you didn't." He looked at Delilah. "Someone cared enough to save my life." Rodriguez burst through the door behind them, gun raised, but before he could fire, 3 men in FBI jackets tackled him to the ground. "Federal agents," one of them shouted. "Everyone freeze," Nurse Angela had called them. She must have. She had promised to contact the authorities if they didn't return. She had kept her word. Marcus felt his legs give out. He collapsed against the railing, darkness swimming at the edges of his vision. The last thing he saw before consciousness faded was Delilah's face above him, her hands gripping his shoulders, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stay with me, Mr. Wellington. Stay with me. You don't get to die now, not after everything we've been through." And somewhere far below, Victoria's screams echoed through the ballroom as federal agents placed her in handcuffs, her perfect red gown crumpling as she fell to her knees. Christmas night in Manhattan, the night Victoria had planned for Marcus to die. Instead, it was the night her entire world came crashing down. Marcus opened his eyes at 9:17, lying on the balcony floor with Delilah pressing her jacket against his chest. FBI agents swarmed around them. Paramedics were pushing through the crowd below. "Don't move," Delilah ordered. "Help is coming." Marcus tried to speak. His voice came out as a whisper. "Is it over?" Delilah looked down at the ballroom. Victoria was being led away in handcuffs, her face a mask of fury and disbelief. Nathan was surrounded by agents, his hands behind his back, all his charm gone. "It's over," Delilah said quietly. "They can't hurt you anymore." Marcus closed his eyes. Tears streamed down his face. Not from pain, not from the poison still working through his system. From relief. 12 years of marriage, 6 months of slowly dying. One Christmas day that changed everything. And a maid named Delilah Johnson, who had seen the truth when everyone else was blind. The paramedics reached Marcus at 9:23. They lifted him onto a stretcher while Delilah held his hand, refusing to let go, even as the medical team worked around her. His blood pressure is dangerously low, one paramedic said. We need to move him now. I'm coming with him. Delilah's voice left no room for argument. Ma'am, only family. I'm the reason he's still alive. She looked the paramedic in the eye. I'm coming. They rushed Marcus through the chaos of the ballroom. Guests parted like waves, staring at the man on the stretcher. Some of them had been at his wedding 12 years ago. Some had shared champagne with Victoria just minutes before her arrest. Now they watched in horror as the truth sank in. Marcus Wellington had been poisoned by his own wife. The ambulance doors slammed shut at 9:29. Delilah sat beside Marcus, gripping his hand as the vehicle screamed through Manhattan traffic. Stay awake, she ordered. Talk to me. Marcus forced his eyes open. The ceiling of the ambulance blurred above him. What do you want me to say? Anything. Tell me about your father. Tell me about your first job. Tell me something that matters. Marcus tried to focus. His mind kept drifting, pulled toward darkness. But Delilah's voice anchored him. My father died when I was 37, he whispered. Heart attack. Right in front of me. 1 minute he was telling me about a deal he closed in Tokyo. The next minute he was on the floor. I'm sorry. Victoria held my hand at his funeral. She cried. She told me she would never leave me. Marcus laughed bitterly. 3 years later, she started planning my murder. The ambulance took a sharp turn. Delilah tightened her grip on his hand. Why? Marcus asked. Why did she hate me so much? She didn't hate you. Delilah's voice was quiet. She hated what you represented. Control. Power. A life where she was always second. Some people would rather destroy something than share it. They arrived at Mount Sinai Hospital at 9:41. Marcus was rushed through the emergency entrance, surrounded by doctors and nurses shouting instructions. Delilah tried to follow, but was stopped at the doors to the ICU. You can't go in there, a nurse said firmly. He needs me. He needs doctors right now. Please, wait here. Delilah stood frozen in the hallway, watching through the small window as Marcus disappeared behind a curtain. For the first time since that morning, she felt truly helpless. Pastor Thomas arrived at 10:07. He found Delilah sitting in the waiting room staring at the floor. Any news? He asked, sitting beside her. Delilah shook her head. They're working on him. That's all I know. You did everything you could. It might not be enough. Her voice cracked. After everything we went through today, he might still die. And there's nothing I can do about it. Pastor Thomas put his hand on her shoulder. You gave him a chance. That's more than anyone else did. At 10:32, a doctor emerged from the ICU. Delilah jumped to her feet. Are you family? The doctor asked. Delilah hesitated. I'm his friend. The doctor looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Mr. Wellington is stable. The poison did significant damage to his heart, but we caught it in time. He's going to need weeks of treatment, possibly surgery, but he's going to live. Delilah felt her legs give out. Pastor Thomas caught her before she hit the floor. He's alive, she whispered. He's actually alive. At 11:15, Delilah was allowed into Marcus's room. He lay in the hospital bed connected to machines that beeped and hummed. His face was pale, his eyes closed, but his chest rose and fell steadily. Delilah pulled a chair beside his bed and sat down. She didn't say anything. She just watched him breathe. At 11:47, Marcus opened his eyes. You're still here, he said. His voice was weak but clear. Where else would I be? Marcus tried to smile. Home, sleeping, celebrating Christmas like a normal person. I haven't been a normal person since this morning. Delilah leaned forward. How do you feel? Like I've been poisoned for 6 months and then chased through Manhattan. He paused. So, about right. A silence fell between them. The machines beeped steadily. Somewhere in the hospital, a phone rang. "The FBI arrested Victoria and Nathan," Delilah said quietly. "Rodriguez too. It's all over the news." "Good. The video from your camera is everywhere. Every news channel, every website, everyone knows what they did." Marcus closed his eyes. "Good." But his voice didn't sound satisfied. It sounded empty, exhausted, like a man who had won a battle but lost everything that mattered. "Mr. Wellington." "Marcus." He opened his eyes. "After everything you've done for me, please call me Marcus." Delilah nodded slowly. "Marcus. What happens now?" He stared at the ceiling for a long time. "I don't know. I've spent my whole life building things. Companies, wealth, a family. And now—" He trailed off. "Now I have to figure out what's real and what was just another lie." "Not everything was a lie." "How do you know?" Delilah thought about the question. She thought about the man she had watched for 3 years. The man who worked 18-hour days. The man who forgot birthdays and anniversaries but never forgot a business meeting. The man who had ignored her existence until today. "Because you're still you," she said finally. "Victoria tried to destroy you, but she couldn't. You're still here, still fighting. That's real." Marcus turned his head to look at her. Really look at her, for the first time since they met. "Why did you save me, Delilah, the truth?" Delilah was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "When my brother Terrence died, I promised myself I would never look away again. I would never pretend I didn't see something wrong just because it was easier. I would never let another person die because I was afraid. But I was nothing to you. I didn't even know your name. You were a human being." Delilah's voice was firm. "That was enough." At 12:17, a knock came at the door. An FBI agent entered, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "Mr. Wellington, I'm Special Agent Catherine Myers. I'm leading the investigation into your wife and brother." Marcus tried to sit up. Delilah gently pushed him back down. "I need to ask you some questions," Agent Myers continued. "When you're ready." "I'm ready now." "Are you sure the doctors say—" "The doctors don't know what I know." Marcus's voice hardened. "Ask your questions." Agent Myers pulled up a chair. "We've arrested Victoria Wellington, Nathan Wellington, and Captain James Rodriguez. The video evidence from your hidden camera system is compelling, but we need to understand the full scope of the conspiracy." "What do you want to know?" "How long have you suspected something was wrong?" Marcus shook his head. "I didn't suspect anything. I was blind. I trusted my wife completely." "Then how did you discover the plot?" Marcus looked at Delilah. "I didn't discover it. She did." Agent Myers turned to Delilah. "Ms. Johnson, I'll need a full statement from you as well." "Whatever you need." "Can you tell me when you first became suspicious?" Delilah took a breath. 6 months ago. Mr. Wellington started looking sick. Tired. Weak. But his wife kept telling everyone he was fine, just working too hard. I didn't believe her. "Why not?" "Because I watched her face when she said it. There was no worry in her eyes, no concern. She looked satisfied, like she was waiting for something." Agent Myers wrote something in her notebook. "And the powder you collected? I found it in the trash 3 weeks ago, hidden under tissues. I kept it because something felt wrong." "That powder has been identified as a cardiac glycoside, a poison that causes gradual heart failure over time." Agent Myers looked at Marcus. "Based on the concentration in your blood, you've been receiving doses for approximately 6 months. A double dose was likely administered this morning." Marcus felt his stomach turn. "She made me green juice every morning. She said it was for my health." "It was killing you." Agent Myers' voice was matter-of-fact, but her eyes showed something like sympathy. "If you had consumed this morning's dose, you would likely be dead right now." "I didn't drink it. I got a phone call. I left for work before I could finish it. That phone call saved your life. Marcus thought about the call from his assistant. The Shanghai deal that had seemed so urgent at the time. A random interruption that had made all the difference. What about Dr. Patterson? Marcus asked. Victoria mentioned him. She said he was paid to sign my death certificate. Agent Myers nodded. We're looking into him. If he's involved, we'll find evidence. At 12:53, Agent Myers received a phone call. Her expression changed as she listened. When she hung up, her face was grim. There's been a development. She looked at Marcus. We found documents at your home, financial records showing payments from your wife to multiple individuals over the past 3 years. Security personnel, medical professionals, legal advisors. Boy. How many people did she buy? At least a dozen that we've identified so far. This wasn't a sudden decision, Mr. Wellington. Your wife spent 3 years building a network of corruption around you. She was very thorough. Marcus closed his eyes. 3 years. That meant Victoria had started planning his murder just months after their 10th anniversary. The anniversary where she had told him she wanted to grow old together. There's something else, Agent Myers said. We found a life insurance policy in Victoria's name, $20 million, payable upon your death by natural causes. Natural causes, Marcus repeated. Heart failure. Exactly. The policy was taken out 2 years ago. The paperwork lists your brother Nathan as the secondary beneficiary. Marcus felt something break inside him. Not his heart, not his body. Something deeper. The last piece of hope that maybe this had all been a mistake. Maybe Victoria had just made a terrible choice in a moment of weakness. But this wasn't weakness. This was calculation. Years of careful, methodical planning to steal his life and everything he had built. She never loved me, he whispered. Not for a single day. Delilah reached out and took his hand. She didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. At 1:31 in the morning, Marcus finally fell asleep. Delilah stayed in the chair beside his bed, watching the monitors, listening to his breathing. Pastor Thomas had left hours ago, promising to return in the morning. Agent Myers had taken her statement and departed with assurances that the investigation was proceeding. The hospital had quieted down the hallways, empty except for occasional nurses making their rounds. Delilah thought about everything that had happened since that morning. Hiding in the closet, running through the streets, breaking into the mansion, confronting Victoria at the gala. It all felt like a dream. A nightmare that she had somehow survived. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have stayed invisible. Delilah's blood ran cold. She stared at the message, her heart pounding. Another text appeared. This isn't over. She looked at Marcus sleeping peacefully in his hospital bed. Then she looked at the door. The hallway was empty. But someone out there knew where she was. Someone who wasn't happy about what had happened tonight. Victoria was in custody. Nathan was in custody. Rodriguez was in custody. But Victoria had paid a dozen people, maybe more, and not all of them had been caught. Delilah deleted the messages and put her phone away. She moved her chair closer to Marcus's bed, positioning herself between him and the door. Whatever came next, she would be ready. At 2:47, Marcus woke with a gasp. His eyes flew open, wild with fear. Victoria! She's not here! Delilah grabbed his hand. You're safe. You're in the hospital. Marcus looked around the room disoriented. Then recognition flooded his face. The gala, the video. It happened. It happened. Everyone saw. She's in jail. Marcus sank back against the pillows. I dreamed she was here, standing over my bed, smiling. It was just a dream. She said she would wait. His voice was haunted. She said no matter how long it took, she would finish what she started. Delilah felt a chill run down her spine. She thought about the text messages on her phone, the threat that this wasn't over. "Dreams can't hurt you," she said firmly. "And neither can Victoria. Not anymore." But even as she spoke the words, she wasn't sure she believed them. At 3:22, a nurse came in to check Marcus's vitals. Delilah stepped into the hallway to stretch her legs. The hospital was silent, the lights dimmed for the night shift. She walked to the end of the corridor and looked out the window. Manhattan spread before her, a sea of lights that never fully went dark. Somewhere out there, Victoria was sitting in a cell waiting for her day in court. And somewhere out there, someone else was watching. Delilah pulled out her phone and called Pastor Thomas. "Delilah?" His voice was groggy with sleep. "Is everything okay?" "I got a message, a threat. I don't know who it's from." A pause. Then Pastor Thomas's voice sharpened. "What did it say?" "That I should have stayed invisible, that this isn't over." "Where are you now?" "The hospital, with Marcus." "Stay there. Don't leave his room. I'm calling Agent Myers." Delilah hung up and hurried back to Marcus's room. He was still awake, staring at the ceiling. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. Delilah hesitated. She didn't want to worry him, but she also didn't want to lie. "Someone sent me a threat," she said quietly. "I don't know who." Marcus's face hardened. "Show me." "I deleted it." "Why?" "Because it doesn't matter. Whoever sent it is trying to scare us. I won't let them." Marcus reached out and took her hand. "We need to be careful. Victoria had a lot of people on her payroll. We don't know who's still out there." "I know." Delilah squeezed his hand. "But I didn't run this morning, and I'm not running now." Marcus looked at her with something new in his eyes: respect, gratitude, and something else that Delilah couldn't quite name. "You're the bravest person I've ever met," he said quietly. Delilah shook her head. "I'm not brave. I'm just stubborn." "That's the same thing." At 4:08, Agent Myers arrived at the hospital. She had 2 agents with her, both looking alert despite the late hour. "Ms. Johnson, I received a call from Pastor Thomas. Show me the messages." "I deleted them." "Your phone still has records. May I?" Delilah handed over her phone. Agent Myers examined it for several minutes, her expression growing darker. "The number is untraceable," she said finally. "Probably a burner phone. Can you find out who sent it?" "We'll try. In the meantime, I'm posting agents outside this room. No one gets in without authorization." Marcus spoke up from his bed. "What about Delilah? She saved my life. If someone is threatening her, we'll protect her too." Agent Myers looked at Delilah. "But I need you to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't talk to anyone you don't know. And if you receive any more messages, don't delete them." Delilah nodded. "I understand." After Agent Myers left, Marcus turned to Delilah. His face was filled with concern. "This is my fault. I dragged you into this." "You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose to help you." "But now you're in danger because of me." Delilah sat down beside his bed. "I've been in danger before. I survived. I'll survive this too." "How can you be so calm?" She thought about the question. How could she explain what it meant to grow up poor in a world that didn't care if you lived or died? How could she explain what it felt like to lose her brother and promise herself that she would never let fear control her again? "Because being scared doesn't change anything," she said finally. "It just makes you weak, and I refuse to be weak." Marcus stared at her. "I spent my whole life thinking strength meant money, power, control. But you have none of those things, and you're the strongest person I know." Delilah smiled slightly. "Strength isn't about what you have. It's about what you're willing to risk." At 5:56, the sun began to rise over Manhattan. Delilah stood at the window watching the city wake up. Marcus was asleep again, his breathing steady, his vital signs stable. Somewhere out there, a new day was beginning. A day without Victoria's poison. A day without the lies and the fear and the constant threat of death. but also a day with new dangers, new enemies, new battles to fight. Delilah's phone buzzed again. She looked at it, her heart racing, but it was just Pastor Thomas. The FBI traced the phone. It was purchased yesterday at a store in Brooklyn, paid for in cash. No surveillance footage. So we still don't know who sent it. Not yet. But we will. Delilah looked back at Marcus, still sleeping peacefully. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly. "Whatever comes next, I'll be here." "I know you will." Pastor Thomas's voice was warm. "That's why he's still alive." 3 days passed. Marcus remained in the hospital, his body slowly purging the poison that had accumulated over 6 months. Delilah stayed by his side, leaving only when the nurses forced her to eat or sleep in the waiting room. On the morning of December 28th, Agent Myers returned with news. "We found Dr. Patterson," she said, standing at the foot of Marcus's bed. "He confessed to everything. Victoria paid him $200,000 to falsify your medical records and sign a death certificate stating natural causes." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "He was my doctor for 8 years. He was also drowning in gambling debts. Your wife found his weakness and exploited it." "What about the threatening messages Delilah received?" Agent Myers hesitated. "We're still investigating, but we have a lead." "What kind of lead?" Victoria had a personal assistant named Elena Vasquez. She disappeared the night of the gala and hasn't been seen since. We believe she may be the one who sent the threats. Delilah spoke up from her chair. "I remember Elena. She started working at the mansion about 8 months ago. Victoria hired her personally. We think Elena was more than an assistant. Financial records show Victoria paid her over $50,000 in the past 6 months. Much more than a normal salary." Marcus closed his eyes. Every day brought new revelations, new betrayals, new faces in the conspiracy that had nearly ended his life. "Find her," he said quietly. "Find everyone involved. I want to know exactly how deep this goes." At 2:15 that afternoon, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. His lawyer, Harold Chen, arrived with a stack of documents and a grim expression. "I have news," Harold said, pulling up a chair. "Victoria's lawyers are already preparing her defense." "What defense?" "The video shows everything. They're claiming coercion. They're saying Nathan forced her into the plot, that she was afraid for her life." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Victoria has never been afraid of anything in her life. I know that. You know that. But a jury might believe a beautiful woman crying on the witness stand. So what do we do?" Harold spread the documents on the bed. "We build an airtight case. Every financial transaction, every communication, every person she paid. By the time we're done, there won't be a jury in the world that believes she's innocent." Delilah leaned forward. "What about the divorce?" Harold looked at Marcus. "I've already filed the papers. Given the circumstances, the judge has agreed to expedite the proceedings. Victoria won't see a penny of Marcus's assets." "She never wanted the money," Marcus said quietly. "She wanted control. She wanted everything I built to belong to her." "Well, now she'll have nothing." Harold gathered his papers. "The trial is set for March. Until then, I suggest you focus on recovery." After Harold left, Marcus turned to Delilah. "I need to ask you something." "What?" "When this is over, when I'm out of the hospital and the trial is finished, what are you going to do?" Delilah hadn't thought that far ahead. For the past 3 days, her entire world had been this hospital room. Marcus's vital signs, the nurses' schedules, the FBI agents standing guard outside the door. "I don't know," she admitted. "Go back to work, I suppose. Find another family to clean for." Marcus shook his head. "No. No. You saved my life. You risked everything for a man who didn't even know your name. I'm not going to let you go back to scrubbing floors." "Mr. Wellington." "Marcus. Marcus." Delilah took a breath. I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't need charity. I've taken care of myself my whole life. This isn't charity. It's justice. Marcus sat up straighter, wincing at the effort. I want to hire you, not as a maid, as, I don't know, a consultant, an advisor, someone who sees what I miss. Delilah stared at him. You want me to work for your company? I want you to help me rebuild my life, the right way this time. Before Delilah could respond, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and felt her blood freeze. Another unknown number. Another message. I know where your mother lives. Delilah's hands started shaking. Her mother. 72 years old, living alone in a small apartment in Queens, the only family Delilah had left. What is it? Marcus asked, seeing her face change. Delilah showed him the message. His expression darkened. Call Agent Myers, now. At 3:47, FBI agents arrived at Delilah's mother's apartment. They found her safe watching television, completely unaware that her daughter was at the center of a national scandal. She's fine, Agent Myers reported by phone. We're moving her to a safe location until we find Elena Vasquez. Delilah hung up and sank into her chair, tears streaming down her face. They went after my mother who has never hurt anyone. Marcus reached out and took her hand. They're trying to scare you into silence. It won't work. How do you know? Because I know you. His grip tightened. You didn't run when Victoria threatened you. You didn't run when Rodriguez found you. You're not going to run now. Delilah wiped her eyes. I'm not running, I'm just tired. I know. So am I. Marcus leaned back against his pillows. But we're going to finish this. Together. On December 30th, Marcus was released from the hospital. His heart was still weak, damaged by months of poison, but the doctors agreed that continued rest at home would be better than staying in a hospital room. The problem was, Marcus didn't have a home anymore. The Wellington mansion was a crime scene, sealed by the FBI as they continued their investigation. You can stay with me, Pastor Thomas offered. The church has a small apartment for visiting ministers. It's not fancy, but it's safe. Marcus looked at the pastor who had sheltered him on the worst night of his life. I can't impose on you any more than I already have. It's not an imposition, it's what we do. Delilah's mother had been moved to a hotel under FBI protection. Delilah wanted to stay with her, but her mother had other ideas. Go, Ruth Johnson said firmly, holding her daughter's hands. That man needs you more than I do. Mama, I can't leave you alone. I'm not alone. I've got 2 FBI agents who bring me coffee every morning. I've never felt safer in my life. Ruth smiled. You saved a man's life, baby girl. Your father would be so proud. Delilah felt tears sting her eyes. Her father had died when she was 16, working double shifts at a factory to pay for her education. He had always told her that the measure of a person wasn't what they had, but what they gave. I'll come back soon, Delilah promised. I know you will. Now go. Finish what you started. At 4:22 that afternoon, Marcus, Delilah, and Pastor Thomas sat in the small apartment behind Grace Community Church. It was simple and clean, nothing like the mansion Marcus had lived in for the past 15 years. But for the first time in months, he felt at peace. What happens now? Pastor Thomas asked. Marcus looked out the window at the gray December sky. Now we wait. The trial is in March. Until then, Victoria and Nathan sit in jail, and I try to remember how to live without looking over my shoulder. And the company. My board of directors has been calling nonstop. They want to know if I'm coming back. Are you? Marcus didn't answer immediately. Wellington Industries had been his life for 25 years. He had built it from a small real estate firm into a billion-dollar empire. Every deal, every building, every success had been his. But Victoria had been part of that life too. She had hosted his business dinners, charmed his investors, stood beside him at every public appearance. How could he go back to that world knowing it had all been a lie? I don't know, he said finally. I'm not sure I'm the same person who built that company. Delilah spoke quietly. You're not. But that might not be a bad thing. Marcus turned to look at her. What do you mean? The man who built Wellington Industries didn't see what was happening right in front of him. He was too busy closing deals to notice his wife was poisoning him. Delilah met his eyes. Maybe the new Marcus Wellington will pay more attention to what really matters. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. You're right, he said. I spent my whole life chasing money and power. I thought that was what success looked like. But success means nothing if the people closest to you are waiting for you to die. Pastor Thomas nodded slowly. Every crisis is also an opportunity. You've been given a second chance, Marcus. Not many people get that. I know. Marcus looked at Delilah. And I know exactly who to thank for it. On New Year's Eve, Marcus asked Delilah to take a walk with him. His doctors had advised gentle exercise, and he was tired of staring at the same four walls. They walked through the streets of Harlem as the sun set over Manhattan. People were preparing for parties, hanging decorations, counting down the hours until midnight. A new year was coming, a fresh start. I've been thinking about what you said, Marcus told Delilah. About paying attention to what really matters. And I want to do something different with my life, something that actually helps people. Delilah looked at him curiously. What do you mean? I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but I've never used it for anything except making more money. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. I want to start a foundation, something that helps people who have been overlooked, people like you. People like me. People who work hard every day and never get noticed. People who save lives and then go back to scrubbing floors. People who deserve better. Delilah was silent for a long moment. Then she said, That's a beautiful idea, but it won't bring back the years you lost. No, but it might give meaning to the years I have left. Marcus took her hand. And I want you to help me run it. Delilah stared at him. Me? You see what I miss? You notice what everyone else ignores. You're exactly the kind of person who should be making decisions about how to help people. I'm a maid, Marcus. I clean houses for a living. You were a maid. Now you're the woman who saved a billionaire's life on Christmas Day. He smiled. That's quite a resume. Before Delilah could respond, her phone rang. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. Unknown number. Marcus's expression hardened. Don't answer it. But Delilah had already pressed the button. Hello? A woman's voice came through the speaker. Cold. Familiar. Happy New Year, Delilah. Victoria. The name came out like a curse. I'm calling to give you a warning. The trial is in March, but I won't be there. Delilah felt her heart stop. What do you mean? I mean, I'm getting out. Tonight. And when I do, the first thing I'm going to do is finish what I started. The line went dead. Delilah looked at Marcus, her face white with fear. She's escaping. She's going to escape tonight. Marcus grabbed her arm and pulled out his phone. Agent Myers, now. At 8:53, FBI agents stormed the federal detention facility where Victoria was being held. They found her cell empty. The guard assigned to her section was unconscious on the floor. Victoria Wellington was gone. Agent Myers called Marcus at 9:17. She had help from inside. We're tracking all exits, all vehicles, all possible routes. We'll find her. How did this happen? Marcus demanded. She was supposed to be under maximum security. Someone was paid. We're investigating who. Agent Myers paused. In the meantime, I'm increasing your protection detail. You and Ms. Johnson need to stay inside until we locate her. Marcus hung up and looked at Delilah. She was sitting on the couch, her hands folded in her lap, her face calm. You're not scared, he said. I'm terrified. She met his eyes. But being scared doesn't change anything. What do we do? Delilah stood up and walked to the window. Outside, fireworks were starting to light up the sky. People were cheering, celebrating the arrival of a new year. "We wait," she said. "And when she comes, we finish this." At 11:47, Pastor Thomas's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went gray. "She's here," he said. "Victoria is outside the church." Marcus moved to the window. In the glow of the streetlights, he could see a figure standing across the street. Blonde hair, red coat, the same woman he had married 12 years ago. Victoria raised her hand and waved. "Call the FBI," Marcus said. "Tell them she's here." "Already done." Pastor Thomas's voice was tense. "They're on their way." "How long?" 10 minutes. Victoria started walking toward the church. Delilah grabbed a heavy candlestick from the altar. "I'm not hiding this time." "Neither am I." Marcus picked up a wooden chair. His heart was pounding. The doctors had warned him about stress, but he didn't care anymore. Victoria reached the church door. She knocked 3 times, gentle, almost polite. "Marcus, darling," she called. "I know you're in there. Let's talk like civilized people." Nobody moved. "Fine." Victoria's voice hardened. "Then I'll talk and you listen. You ruined everything, Marcus. Everything I built. Everything I planned. And now I have nothing left to lose." She pulled something from her coat. In the dim light, it was impossible to see what it was. "I'm not leaving until one of us is dead." The door burst open. Victoria stood in the entrance, a gun in her hand, her eyes wild with rage. "You should have died on Christmas," she hissed. "You should have died drinking your green juice like a good little husband." Marcus stepped forward, putting himself between Victoria and Delilah. "It's over, Victoria. The FBI is on their way. There's nowhere to run." "I'm not running. I'm finishing what I started." She raised the gun. "Goodbye, Marcus." Delilah moved faster than Marcus thought possible. She threw the candlestick with all her strength. It hit Victoria's arm. The gun fired. The bullet went wide, shattering a window. Victoria screamed and lunged at Delilah. They crashed to the floor, struggling, fighting. Marcus grabbed Victoria's arm and pulled her back. She twisted free and swung the gun toward his face. The church doors flew open. FBI agents poured in, weapons drawn. "Drop the weapon." "Now." Victoria froze. For one long second, she stared at Marcus with pure hatred. Then she dropped the gun and raised her hands. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "It will never be over." Agent Myers stepped forward and cuffed her. "Victoria Wellington, you're under arrest for attempted murder, escape from federal custody, and assault with a deadly weapon." They led her out of the church. Marcus watched her go, feeling nothing but exhaustion. Delilah stood beside him, breathing hard, a cut on her cheek from the struggle. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked. "I'm alive." She looked at him. "We're both alive." Outside, the clock struck midnight. Fireworks exploded over Manhattan. A new year had arrived. Marcus took Delilah's hand. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." Delilah squeezed his hand. "Don't thank me yet. We still have a trial to get through." "I know." Marcus smiled slightly. "But for the first time in months, I believe we're going to win." 3 months later, Victoria Wellington was sentenced to 40 years in prison for attempted murder, conspiracy, and escape from custody. Nathan received 25 years. Captain Rodriguez got 15. Doctors. Patterson lost his medical license and received 10 years. Marcus testified at every hearing, telling the world exactly what his wife had done. Delilah testified too, her quiet voice carrying more weight than any expert witness. After the sentencing, Marcus stood on the courthouse steps with Delilah beside him. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. The world wanted to know what came next. Marcus raised his hand for silence. "Today, justice was served," he said. "But this isn't just about me. This is about everyone who has ever been betrayed by someone they trusted. Everyone who has ever been overlooked, ignored, treated like they didn't matter." He looked at Delilah. I'm alive because of this woman. She saw what no one else saw. She risked everything to save a man who didn't even know her name. If that isn't heroism, I don't know what is. The cameras turned to Delilah. She stood tall, her eyes clear, her voice steady. I did what anyone should do, she said. I paid attention. I spoke up. I refused to look away. She turned to face the crowd. That's all it takes. One person who refuses to stay silent. One person who sees something wrong and decides to act. You don't need money or power or connections. You just need courage. Marcus smiled at her. Then he addressed the reporters one final time. The Wellington Foundation launches next month. We're going to help people who have been ignored by society, people who work hard and deserve better, people like Delilah Johnson. He took her hand. Because sometimes the person who saves your life is the one you never thought to notice. And sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who were invisible all along. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, questions flew. But Marcus and Delilah just stood there hand in hand, looking at the future they would build together. A future where no one would ever be invisible again.